let's talk for a minute. So really, something that came up in a recent conversation with me is a question that actually comes up a lot, especially with players who've been in the SCA probably more than 2 or 3 years. And people like to ask, why do you play? Now, that may sound like an odd question, especially for someone who's been in a number of years. It's obvious, it's fun or whatever. But the reality of the matter is that that question is different as it is for everyone. If you ask that question to people who've been playing 6 months or a year and a half, and you ask that question to people who've been playing 3 years, 4 years, and 5 years, you start seeing a change in what the answer is. Now, I can't speak for anyone else, so I'm going to speak from my own experiences. Now, I joined the SCA in September of 1997. It was my freshman year at college. And I saw this small group of guys in the middle of the day in front of the library fighting. It was SCA heavy weapons practice. They were doing it on campus as a combination fighter practice and demo. So I immediately got my attention. I'd seen knights in armor, I'd seen movies, I'd read the stories, and I had, I like to think, a better than average understanding of history. By no means complete, but I just thought this idea of European sword fighting was fascinating, and it looked like fun. I'm not gonna lie to you, I wasn't wanting to join for historical purposes. I was wanting to join because this looked like fun. And not long after I joined, I'd learned about the fighting unit in our local group, the Lion Dragon Guard, which at the time was one of the premier fighting units in our kingdom. Lion Dragon Guard had taken home the King's Battle Ribbon at that point, I believe, twice. They were the inaugural unit. They and the Barony of Northkeep combined had been the first to be awarded the King's Battle Ribbon for combat at Gulf Wars. And I believe the next year, Moonshadow took it home alone. And we had regular guard practices where we were practicing drill and formation. We were marching in line and column. We were shifting between staggered formation and shield wall spear formation. We were practicing with our combat archers. So it was very much a codified cultural level practice of this is how we fight wars in the SCA. And I saw that and I was immediately drawn to it. I was immediately attracted to it. And looking back on it, I understand why, but we'll get to that in a minute. So I joined the Lion Dragon Guard. I fought next to them the following year in '98, but I actually took the oath as a guardsman and became a formal guard member right around, I want to say, August of '98. And then we went to Gulf Wars spring, March of '99. That was my first time fighting as part of the unit at a Gulf Wars, at my second Gulf Wars. And I fought with a guard for a couple of years. There were a couple of times where I bowed out of the guard because I wanted to do some other things with my fighting, but I always loved melee. I loved the team effort. I loved the fact that these big show-off knights that were out there, have their white belts thinking no one can take them. In a melee environment, especially back then, it's a whole different animal. All the knights I saw killed on the battlefield, I think maybe one or two of the ones I saw were actually taken out by other high-level fighters, and the rest were effectively sucker punched by an archer or a spearman or a swordsman who got a lucky hit in. So when I fought with a guard, and I fought with him for a number of years, 7, 8, God, it might have been as many as 10 or 11. Um, it was, I mean, it's the old tired truth of when you fight next to people, you work next to people, when you are near people who you share a common goal with, you build a community, and that's been the history for as long as mankind has been doing things as groups. We read about it and we see it a lot in uh, written history and novels. I think probably one of the most dramatic modern examples of that is Band of Brothers, the series. So it was very much the same there, even though it was SCA combat, not real combat, even though it was a few days, it was one day a week, like 3 weekends a month, and then a couple of events a year. There was that camaraderie, there was that brotherhood, that identity, and looking back on it, as much as if you'd asked me at the time why I played in the SCA and why I fought with the Guard at the time I would have said because it was fun, because I enjoyed it. Now looking back on it, it's building on, that was building on a pre-existing thing I was looking for. When I was 16, actually when I was 14, I joined the fire service as a junior member. And then when I was 16, after 2 years of 2 weekends a month and one night a month classroom and training with the training officer, with the other juniors. In the state of Virginia, you can take your test at 16. So I attended the Firefighter 1 class, and that was, I think, 6 weekends, and it was 6 weeks, so it was every weekend and then 2 nights a week after hours, because all the other guys in the class were adults and they were getting off of work, and I was a student. So I get home, my mom would drive me to the station and we'd do classes. And then I took the test and I was shocked when I passed. So I was a certified firefighter at the age of 16. And as soon as I passed, I was riding the fire trucks. And at the time, if you'd asked me why I was joining the fire service, I'd say because what kid doesn't want to ride a fire truck? It was fun, it was exciting. A lot of the same descriptors that I used with the Lion Dragon Guard. And the reality of it is that I was looking for a community that I liked and that liked me. And that kind of segues into what I did with the rest of my SCA career, because as much as I enjoyed melee fighting, there aren't that many melees, all things told, on Steora. So there were a lot of events where I didn't want to enter the tournaments. I didn't want to fight single combat. I knew it was going to happen. I was going to get my butt kicked. So I did other things. I discovered voice heraldry. And in a big sweeping overlap of my fighting career, I very slowly started to discover that what I was looking for in the fighting community, I was finding more effectively in the voice heraldry community. Now, to be clear, it's not that voice heralds robbed me away from fighting. I stopped fighting when I became ill in, I think it was about 2007, maybe 2008. And long drawn out story about getting me recovered from that. But it ultimately resulted in surgery, which, was major surgery. I wasn't going to be doing anything physical for a while. So I hung up my armor and said, maybe I'll get back to it, maybe I won't. And then after I was recovered, I took stock of the relationships I had. And the fighting community, which when I joined I loved, they'd changed. New fighters had come in. Some of the fighters I'd joined with, some of the guys who I'd started fighting with, had progressed up the ranks and become high-level fighters. One of them became royalty. Only 2 of them become royalty by then. And things had changed. And the community I was looking for wasn't there anymore. And the new community was different. It wasn't meeting. It wasn't what I wanted. to be around. It wasn't meeting my needs as I looked for a community. And I looked around and I looked at the voice heraldry community in Onsteora, and not long after that I was also looking at the voice heraldry community abroad. When I traveled to Gulf Wars, it was about 8 years ago now, maybe a little longer, I discovered the known world voice heraldry community with all the people gathered at Gulf Wars, and I really found my people there. The same want of camaraderie, the same want of people who are glad to see you, glad to check on you, they're concerned about you, they're glad for your help, and you are glad for their help in whatever endeavor you're undertaking. I found that in the Voice Heralds. And the larger heraldic community. I'm not trying to exclude anyone, but looking back at the last, 30 years out of my 43 on this earth, almost all of those steps were bookmarked by me looking for a community to be part of. Now, let's bring this back to you. Why is this relevant? Why is this a talking point between us? And the fact of the matter is that when you ask people why they like the SCA, why do they play, for the first 2 or 3 years, it's the fun. It's, I'm trying archery, or I'm sword fighting, or I'm fencing, or I am learning woodworking or pottery or sewing or cooking or brewing or metalwork or casting, jewelry making, calligraphy and illumination. Take your pick. There's a lot to love about the SCA. And I've been playing a quarter century, 25 years, and there's still a lot to love about the SCA. I'm discovering new things to do and to try and to explore almost every day right now. But if you ask me right now, what is it that keeps me in the SCA? It's the community. Because no matter how much fun I'm having, and believe me, I'm having fun, the number one reason that trumps even the fun that I'm having is that I have found a group of people who both I am interested in what they have to offer, what they say in conversations, what they do with their lives, what they do in the SCA, and who are also interested in my life and my conversations and what I do in the SCA. It would have been nice if I was that self-aware when I was 21. I wasn't, but it would have been nice. But I'm that self-aware now. And to make this applicable to you, what I want you to take away from this is there will come a point in time where the SCA is not new and exciting and thrilling. There's nothing wrong with that. You do something long enough, new and exciting and thrilling no longer apply. It doesn't matter how violent your sword fighting is, or how intense your artwork is, or how much effort you put into your service, or anything. Those are emotions which come with something being new to you and eventually fade as your mind adapts to that situation. That's okay. That really is. Don't let that be the reason you stay or go. Look past that. Look at what else the society offers you. And I think a lot of people, they have it already. They understand, at the back of their minds it's the community, but if they don't know to put it to words, it's like, okay, why am I playing? For me playing, it's when I'm having a tough day, I know exactly who I can reach out to talk with them. When I need help with something, even something simple, like I need help setting up a post in the backyard to set a fence panel against, or I need help setting up, this new project, we're putting up yard furniture, saying I need somebody to come help me hold the parts while I work the wrench. I know who I'm going to reach out to, and that list is pretty short, and it's almost all people I know in the SCA. When I need someone to just talk with, it's going to be someone in the SCA. When I need someone to geek out with, it's going to be someone in the SCA. Understanding that has both shaped how I progress in the society and how I engage with others who may be interested in the society. Yeah, the SCA is fun, but I can also tell them you meet the most amazing group of people. So, a very complex topic, very detailed, also very personal. I don't think any of us are going to approach this quite the same way. But it is something I wanted to share. It is something I wanted to put out there so that you have something to process, something to think about, and hopefully something that will help inform your next steps in the society. So that is what I have for you today. I'll see you all at the next event. Goodbye, and God bless.